Every evening, as the smell of food filled the kitchen and the plates were placed neatly on the table, Daniel set an extra chair. The gesture was small, almost mechanical, yet it carried the weight of years of waiting. His daughter, Sophie, had grown used to the sight of it, the empty chair at the end of the table. Always there, always untouched. When she was younger, she had asked why it was necessary. Daniel had told her it was tradition, a symbol of hope, a reminder that her brother might return. But Sophie had learned to read between her father's words. The chair was not tradition. It was longing. It was denial carved into daily life, a refusal to admit that the son who had stormed out years ago was gone for good. Sophie, now in her 20s, could not look at the chair without bitterness rising in her chest. Every dinner, it felt like a third guest hovered among them, silent and absent, consuming the attention that should have been hers. She remembered the arguments, the slammed doors, the night her brother had left with a suitcase and a voice filled with rage. He had promised never to come back, and he had kept that promise. Yet her father clung to hope as if hope were oxygen. For Daniel, the chair was more than furniture. It was a lifeline. Each time he placed it at the table, he whispered to himself that maybe tonight would be the night the front door opened, that maybe he would hear familiar footsteps on the stairs. He could not admit that the hope was slowly destroying the relationship with the daughter who had stayed. Sophie watched him carefully, watched how his eyes lingered on the empty space during meals, how he paused before serving, as if waiting for someone who would never sit down. The silence grew heavier with each passing day. Her own presence felt diminished, her voice drowned out by the shadow of her absent brother. She wanted her father to see her, to recognize her sacrifices, to love her as fully as he loved the memory of the child who had left. Yet Daniel could not let go. For him, the absence was unbearable, but the possibility of return was enough to sustain him. The chair became his prayer, his ritual, his silent cry against reality. He believed that to remove it would be to betray his son, to admit defeat. And so, night after night, Sophie sat across from her father, eating her dinner under the gaze of a ghost. The chair remained empty, but its presence dominated the room. She felt herself fading, becoming invisible, consumed by the shadow of someone who was not even there. It was not anger that filled her, not entirely. It was sorrow. She longed for a father who could let go, who could see the daughter who never left. But she also knew that grief does not always obey reason. It clings to the heart in strange ways, demanding rituals, insisting on illusions. The chair became the unspoken divide between them. Sophie's silence mirrored her father's, and neither dared to break it. Love still existed between them, but it was tangled, heavy, and strained by the weight of absence. In the quiet of those dinners, the empty chair said more than words ever could. It spoke of loss, of loyalty, of denial, and of the fragile hope that sometimes keeps people alive, even as it tears families apart.